Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation, Facilitating Meaningful Participation in Zoom Seminars, Best Practices for Instructors. My name is January Pearson and I'm a full-time faculty member in the English and Rhetoric Department at Purdue Global. At Purdue Global, students engage in synchronous activities with our weekly one-hour seminars. Through the years, Purdue Global has used a variety of different tools for our seminars, but in 2022, we transitioned to Zoom. In this session, I'll discuss what we've learned through the years presenting in Zoom. Synchronous activities benefit online students in many ways. According to Burgess, synchronous activities improve academic performance and build community, providing real-time communication opportunities for students. As online instructors, we understand the importance of these benefits. However, they often aren't achieved when students are unengaged, passively reading online or doing their homework as they attend. So, how do we encourage active engagement in seminars to help promote these benefits? In the next few slides, I'll discuss techniques and activities you can use to promote active engagement using Zoom. When we think of classroom activities, we're often envisioning activities that take place during the presentation itself. However, we can use pre-seminar activities to promote more participation later on in class. Zoom allows students to come to class before the scheduled start time. In the platform, instructors will see a list of students waiting in the waiting room. Instructors can set their Zoom preferences to allow those students to come in as they enter Zoom or to wait in the waiting room. Pre-seminar activities provide a warm-up for students, preparing them for the class session. By inviting students in from the waiting room before the session starts, students have an opportunity to enter into these informal conversations. In these sessions, students aren't having to take notes or prepare themselves to respond to academic questions. The atmosphere is informal and relaxed. Some Purdue Global instructors even play music in the background to set the mood for a more casual environment. Casual questions work well in these pre-seminar activities. Questions related to recent movies, the weather, or recent sports events, such as the Super Bowl. These low-pressure conversations have a threefold impact on students. One, they draw out the more introverted student, preparing them to feel more comfortable participating when the session begins. Two, they help build connections among students. And three, they begin to alleviate students' anxiety about a class. Once the session begins, Zoom offers several tools to enhance participation. In our sessions at Purdue Global, we've had success using polls, breakout rooms, and screen sharing. Polls offer several benefits to these online sessions, and they are one of the best ways to increase student participation. Zoom allows you to create polls ahead of time or to create them in the moment during a session. They're a great way to take the pulse of your class. If you're introducing a new concept, polls allow you to do a quick pop-up quiz to see if students are catching on. They're also helpful if you want to get a sense of your students' knowledge or sentiment about a topic. For instance, before I launch into a lesson about APA citation, it's helpful to use polls to determine if students view themselves as beginning, intermediate, or advanced level in their citation knowledge. A quick assessment using polls then helps me to tailor my content to the student's needs. The anonymous nature of polls make them helpful for questions that more introverted or private students may not want to answer publicly. In my own classes, I like to use multiple choice polls to ask students their perceptions on writing and on their abilities as writers. Zoom provides other templates as well, such as fill in the blank, matching, and rank order questions that can be useful as well. Another way to enhance participation is through breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are great for icebreakers, brief games, workshops, and small group discussions. At the start of a term, breaking students into rooms helps them to get to know a smaller group of students. Some faculty have used breakout rooms to facilitate brief competitions or games. For instance, students could be asked to go on a scavenger hunt. The professor could provide them with 3 to 5 items to find together at the library. Or on the more academic side, breakout rooms work well for small group discussions, to analyze a text, brainstorm ideas, to solve a problem, or to share their writing and provide each other with feedback. If you're thinking of trying breakout rooms with your students, here are a few best practices to consider. First, breakout rooms are best when you have the optimal number of students in the rooms, somewhere between 3 to 5 to 6 students. It's also helpful to intentionally group students. For instance, grouping extroverted students with introverted students, or grouping students studying a specific field together. As the instructor provides clear guidelines, such as the length of the activity, a clear prompt, and the specific outcome they'd like them to share with the class after the activity, these breakout rooms create a meaningful learning opportunity for students. Lastly, let's talk about Zoom's screen sharing function. While using PowerPoint can be helpful at times, screen sharing creates interactivity for your students. One way to use screen share is by taking the class on a virtual field trip. Our instructors will use screen share to visit the library, the writing center, or other online resources. For instance, instead of using a PowerPoint to provide a bulleted overview of the databases in the library, you could take students directly to the library and ask them to share keywords to guide you through the process of finding a source in different databases. Screen share is also helpful for demonstrations. Instead of abstractly discussing how to use artificial intelligence tools with integrity, you can take the students directly to the sites, like Perplexity, and demonstrate how to find credible sources, asking them to evaluate them. Finally, screen share works well for brainstorming sessions. Pulling up a Google Doc allows you to take notes and share ideas with students. If you share the Google Doc with students as a link in the chat and give them permission to edit it, they can contribute to the document as well. This is an excellent way to collaborate in real time with students. So far, we've been looking at several activities you can try to keep your students engaged. Next, let's talk about the inevitable Zoom fatigue and how to combat it. The phrase Zoom fatigue came to be during COVID-19, when so many classrooms were transitioned to Zoom. Even today, Zoom fatigue can be an issue, so it's important that we pay attention to the signs, such as a reduction in student participation or a series of very short responses that lack much depth. According to L. Bulescu, one way to help students refocus is to give them a mini break during a session. The idea would be to provide a 1 to 3 minute break during an hour-long session. These breaks provide students with an opportunity to take a mental recess by thinking about something very different or by drastically changing the tone or mood of the seminar in appropriate ways. In my own classes, I've tried a few different types of breaks that I'll share next. One of my favorite mini break ideas is to ask students to share a joke. I use dad jokes in my class because I'm teaching writing classes, and dad jokes use word humor, like puns. They're also easy to find online, usually appropriate in content, and they are jokes that appeal to a wide audience. Halfway through the class, I've also tried sharing a brief micropoem of a few lines, coupled with a scenic photo. For instance, I've shared Linda Pastan's poem, The Dogwoods, coupled with a photo of a dogwood tree in bloom. Sharing a poem and/or a scenic photo lets students take a break from more intense academic conversations. Students report feeling inspired, refreshed, and even relaxed after reading the poems. Finally, the mini breaks could be used for a couple of minutes of silence or quiet reflection. In Alvalescu's study, They provided the insight that for online students, simply looking away from the screen for a few seconds or a minute was enough to allow students to have time for a mental reset and to be more focused and ready to interact after the break. Finally, let's look at after seminar participation. Similar to pre-seminar activities, after seminar are a great time for informal conversations. I usually begin by turning off the recording to help set the stage for open questions. I've noticed students tend to be more willing to turn on their microphones or their video cameras at this point in the class. This is a great time for students to ask follow-up questions or clarifying questions about their own individual assignments. At times, these after-class sessions allow for more social connections. I've had several very social groups stay after, open their video cameras and microphones to introduce us to their pets or to other family members. We've covered a lot in this session that I hope will be helpful to you as you use Zoom. Some key takeaways are, first, engage students before and after seminars. Second, try out some of Zoom's interactive tools, such as polls, breakout rooms, and screen sharing. Finally, use mini breaks intentionally to combat Zoom fatigue and refocus your students' attention. As we know, the benefits of active participation in these synchronous sessions are valuable to our students. They will see improved academic performance, experience a stronger community, and be more inclined to stay focused during these sessions. For instructors, it will help us to assess our students' understanding and improve our students' experience of the class materials. When our students are engaged and meaningfully contribute to the class, it makes teaching that much more enjoyable and rewarding. Thank you very much for attending my session.